love to know, would you rather get a vintage Kelly or a classic flap? Because honestly, as I said, vintage is still really amazing quality, and you can most certainly get a classic flap on the pre-loved market as well. And probably going forward, I really would actually love to get a white Chanel bag one day, so I think I would probably get a vintage one. But this is a newer Chanel bag, as I think that in terms of retail price, I do think that the Birkin looks a little bit more substantial. I mean, obviously this little yellow Chanel is very cute. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about recently, and that is if Chanel bags are worth it anymore, or if we should just all go out and buy Birkins. And you guys are going to be kind of thinking like, what the hell, Jess, that doesn't make any sense. Well, I wanted to make comparisons between Hermes and Chanel and what makes them what they are and what makes them the prices that they are now, and also what I think about them long term. So with Chanel, they do specialize more in clothing, the whole Chanel look, like the ready to wear, and the bags are definitely a signature of the brand as well. But I have this impression that Chanel, they are really trying to push their ready to wear onto most people, and even they're starting to get more into the fine jewelry category. And maybe that is also a reason why they are deciding to really increase the price of their bags and also lower the quality of their bags. And what makes me think that they're lowering the quality is that if you just even look at the latest Chanel dust bag for the Timeless Classic, they're starting to use like a cotton dust bag instead of a really luxurious felt dust bag. This, you know, really nice felt, and it had the little Chanel drawing on the front, but now they're starting to do them with some really thin like cotton, and yeah, they've raised the prices of the classic flaps really significantly in the last year or two. And there was a rumor on Facebook. Now, this lady posted in a group that she spoke to a Chanel employee at Neiman Marcus, and the employee said that Chanel are going to increase the price of their classic flaps by $2,000 US every year for the next 4 years. So in 4 years, this is going to cost $8,000 more. And when it's getting to that price point, I think a lot of people ask themselves like, well, that's like pretty much like a Birkin at this point. If you're into handbags, you know, there's a lot of people who like collecting handbags, but they absolutely hate the Birkin and they hate the Kelly and they hate Hermes. And in that case, then this, you know, topic of video doesn't really matter. Like, obviously, if you don't like Birkins and Kellys and all that, then you won't care if it's the same price, because you would rather buy maybe the Chanel bag or the Louis Vuitton bag. But I think that when Chanel is aligning their prices to this point where they're trying to be at the Hermes level with their leather goods, I just don't think that personally they're set up to be at that price point for their leather goods. Now, for their fashion items like their tweed jackets and their suits and their whatever, they're ready to wear, yes, they can kind of make that expensive because that's their specialty. And you can take a tweed jacket into Chanel and you can get it altered 2 sizes up or 2 sizes down, whether it's vintage, whether it's, you know, from someone else, whether you bought it from overseas, they'll always be able to do alterations for you with your ready to wear. So I feel like that's really a field that Chanel specialize in, and I understand that why the ready to wear is such a good investment, because it's something you can have for the rest of your life even if you change sizes. But the handbags, I feel like they changed them so much to the point where Chanel can't even really fully restore a vintage handbag, you know, from Chanel. So, like, yeah, even though they can alter their clothing, you know, their vintage clothing, you can't, for example, take this like 1991 Chanel flap bag and say, can you just, you know, replace this hardware here? Because I'm noticing a bit of what's an example? Like, just say this has tarnish on it or something. Like, I want to replace this CC lock. They can't do that because they actually don't have an archive of vintage hardware, and they will only, they can't even really restore leather unless it's a black classic flap. They've actually trained people overseas to restore their black classic flaps, and this is something that Chanel have recently introduced. because in the last 10 years or so, there wasn't this kind of service where they could restore the leathers. And yeah, you can take in, say, my yellow Chanel bag, and if I get, you know, a big stain on it, they won't be able to restore it. So I think, you know, in terms of long term, Chanel and their handbags, they're actually not a good investment into your wardrobe, because they themselves cannot like fully restore or repair them. Whereas with a Birkin or a Kelly, you can get like a Kelly literally from the 40s, which is pretty rare, but you can bring a vintage Kelly into Hermes and they will be able to restore it for you. Given that it hasn't been bag sparred before and it's not like falling apart, they do offer that service. So I think long term, in terms of investment into your wardrobe, it's actually, if you like both, you know, Kellys and Birkins and classic flaps the same, I would actually say that, you know, in 20 years, the better investment would have been the Kelly or the Birkin, because even if you do kind of get that dirty, even if the hardware gets scratched up, that is something that Hermes can always restore for you. Now at Chanel can replace hardware and parts of bags as well, but only on their like bags that are like, I'm going to say like max 5 years old. And I just think that if you're going to price yourself at that level, you have to have, they should have pre-planned, I guess, this happening, and they should have archived maybe some of their older hardware pieces. And I don't know. The only reason why I think Chanel is so expensive now is, one, they're trying to align their prices with Hermes probably, and two, they're trying to make less people buy the bag so they're not oversaturating the market and become undesirable, because I really think that Chanel is scared that their classic flap is going to be undesirable at some point and they won't be able to sell them. And you know, that is the big money maker of the business, the handbags at this point, and the makeup. Actually, they probably make the most money off the makeup. So money aside, guys, I think if you are someone like really rich and affluent, a lot of really rich people, I've noticed, they buy Chanel ready to wear and they wear Hermes bags, because Hermes bags, they can be handed down. Chanel bags most certainly can too, but if you really want to put them to the test and use them, I would say they are a little bit more delicate than Hermes bags, unless it's like an alligator or something, or actually alligator is quite durable. I would say if it's like, you know, there are delicate Hermes bags as well, but they're not. Chanel bags are more collectibles and like long term. I think if you keep them in good nick, they can last. But for day-to-day wear, I think the Hermes bags, because Hermes himself can restore the bags, I think that long-term they're a better investment into your wardrobe. And given also the price increases, now I think back in 2000 the Birkin cost 4,000 USD, and then around, I think it was 2000, and I might be like wrong with these dates, but I think it was around 2014 they increased their price from 4,000 to 11,000 USD-ish for the Birkin, so like a standard Birkin. Only Hermes have massive price increases every 10 years, and that's quite scary because it's now 2022 and you've seen minor price increases with Hermes over the years, but if they do a dramatic price increase like that, you know, next year, like where they've literally doubled their price of their bags, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, especially with Chanel, how they're trying to align their prices with Hermes. I think actually now is a pretty good time to buy a Birkin or Kelly, which is probably why I did, because I can foresee them really raising their prices in the next 5 years or so, because they can, and they are highly desirable. There are people who are literally spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get offered a Birkin. I mean, maybe not that much, maybe like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to be offered a Birkin. So they most certainly can raise their prices if they wanted to. On the pre-love market, like guys, I paid a slight premium for my Birkin, and I was okay to do that. People are willing to pay a lot to obtain a Birkin. So I'm going to guess in the next few years, they're going to raise their prices most certainly again. And the sooner that you buy one, I think it's actually better in terms of long term, and it's something you can have for a really, really long time. So obviously I'm a Chanel gal at heart. I love Chanel. I think the bags are really fun and girly, and Hermes is a little bit more of a mature taste, although I like to get the fun takes on Hermes. So like, you know, the rose poop and the the silly her bag, but I just think that, you know, obviously if you're a handbag lover, most handbag lovers get into Louis Vuitton and Chanel first. I mean, Hermes is not always the first one you go for. Some people it is. I have like heard some people who they get into Hermes first, which is actually pretty smart. And if you do, then that's probably good, because I do see a lot of longevity in Hermes bags. But, you know, a lot of people, they will look at a Birkin and it just won't make their heart sing. So in that case, it's probably not the right purchase for you. But I do think if you are considering buying a Birkin or Kelly or something like that, I think long term it is not a dumb choice. I actually think it's something that you could have for many, many years, and it's always something that's going to be quite valuable. Another thing about Chanel that I wanted to mention is that I really wish they still did the 24 karat gold hardware. I know, guys, like everyone always goes on about this. Like in the past, I think Chanel really did pay more attention to their handbags, and they really did offer a more elevated service than they do now. So you used to be able to take your Chanel bag into Chanel, and they could even re-gild the hardware for you, and they really don't offer this service anymore. And a lot of Chanel bags now, they'll come with hardware that it honestly doesn't age as well. And I've noticed that even the grommets underneath my rectangle mini, they're starting to get a bit blotchy, like on the grommets, and they can replace that. But I just noticed a slight difference in the feel of the 24 karat gold, you know, plated hardware and the modern day hardware. Obviously the modern day hardware isn't going to like chip as noticeably, I think, like especially if it's in a champagne, but I just think it was nice that they used to offer more of a service towards, you know, regilding the hardware. And although they can replace parts of the hardware now, a lot of their seasonal bags, unless, as I said, it's like, you know, within the last 5 years, they might not have the right parts to replace the hardware. And I think that's a real shame. And I really think that like long-term Chanel bags, maybe going forward, they'll think about, you know, maybe archiving some of their hardware pieces for the next, you know, 10-20 years so they can fully restore bags. And I think going forward, maybe they will introduce more color restoration services, so people will see that it is a better long-term investment to buy Chanel, because as it is, I don't think their after-sales services provide enough options to actually fully restore the bags. Like, as I said, guys, if I take this into Chanel and I want to get this fully restored, they really can't do it. So, and this is only from the 90s. So I just think that's, you know, I think that's something that is the demise of some Chanel bags, and it doesn't add up with the price point that we are paying for them. They should really offer that service. So anyway, guys, what do you think about, you know, comparing Hermes and Chanel bags? Obviously they're two completely different brands, and I think what they stand for is completely different, but I would love to know your thoughts. And thanks for watching my video today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.